We are back, and we are joined now by Abdul ElSayed, former Wayne County Public Health Director, co-author of Medicare for All, A Citizen's Guide, now a candidate for United States Senate in Michigan's Democratic primary, just endorsed by Bernie Sanders. Abdul, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Emma, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Thrilled to have you. Really excited about your candidacy. Let's just start there. I mean, what you ran for governor in 2018. Gretchen Whitmer obviously won that primary. What was the reason that you decided to jump back into electoral politics?
I've had the privilege of being in a conversation with folks in Michigan for the last 10 years since I jumped into public service. And the overwhelming realization that you get when you talk to people on the ground is that it just shouldn't be this hard to get by in the richest, most powerful country in the world. It shouldn't be this hard to afford your groceries, shouldn't be this hard to go to a doctor and not have to worry about getting huge levels of medical debt because you did. It shouldn't be this hard to take a big deep breath or take a drink of water and know that those things are going to do more for your body than they take away. It shouldn't be this hard to pull your face up from your phone because corporations spend billions of dollars to keep you looking at it. And I think for all of those reasons, I think we need leadership. And right now we're watching as the very people who've exploited that pain have been making it worse, whether it's passing stock tips to your buddies after destroying the global economy, or it's destroying the best things about American government in the form of the NIH and the cancer research that it funds, or it's the fact that they're disappearing people off the streets. So I'm somebody who never dreamed of being a politician. I dreamt of being a doctor. And I started to realize that the things that were making people sick had a lot more to do with what was happening in our society, which is what led me to public service. I'm somebody who has been building in government, whether it's erasing $700 million in medical debt for Wayne County residents, or it's putting glasses on kids' faces, or it's standing up to corporate polluters. And I think we need somebody who's got the audacity to step up and fight back. And I got receipts there, but also somebody who knows what to build after the wreckage of Trump and Musk and all of their supporters has come by. And so I think right now is the time for leadership. I'm hoping to be able to show that and build on the conversation I've gotten to share and to turn that into public policy that works for people.
Can you speak a little bit about healthcare and your background in providing healthcare for people? We're in this very scary political moment of an assault on science, an assault on researchers, an assault on peer review. I mean, RFK Jr. under Donald Trump is spouting the most insane conspiracy theories that would be laughed out of the room in any professional setting when it comes to healthcare, except for the fact that, I don't know, some podcasters like him. So now he's one of the most powerful people in the country when it comes to determining healthcare. What do you observe with this kind of like anti-intellectualism and this anti-science movement on the right?
Yeah, first, I really want to start at the central premise. RFK Jr. is what happens when you put an internet troll in charge of the nation's public health. And that's exactly how he's going about it. Now, here's the thing. He identifies the problems. Like the problems he identifies are actually accurate. A lot of us in public health have been trying to spend a lot of time to call people to action when it comes to our extremely broken food system and all the disease that comes downstream of that. The problem, though, is that the way you get right answers in healthcare is to use science to rigorously identify answers to big questions and then to follow where the science goes. But when you throw away the scientific process because you've got a preconceived ideological perspective about how you solve the problem, you get what RFK Jr. is doing. And I worry that it's extremely dangerous. We've got a once in 25 year measles outbreak at the southern border. It's now in 25 different states across the country. And this guy's out here demagoguing vaccines, which are the reason why we had kept diseases like measles and polio and mumps under wraps for so long in this country. What's worse, though, is that they're gutting so much of the cancer research and research on chronic disease and research on autism. That is one of the best things our government does. I know, folks rag on government all the time, but it does some really good things. It just usually does them quietly and in the background. And the NIH is part of that. But I want to help to try and explain why I think RFK and all of the trolls that have helped put him in this place have been able to succeed. It's that in this country, we have failed to address the central biggest challenge when it comes to health and healthcare, that you get monetized for getting sick in this country. We have failed to guarantee basic access to quality healthcare for our country, and people have suffered the consequences. And what that means is that in the midst of a global pandemic, when you come up to them and say, hey, listen, here's a medication that didn't exist a year ago that can protect you from a disease you don't yet have, their question is, okay, but what about medication for the disease I actually have that I have to get nickeled and dimed for? And it leaves us looking ridiculous because we're not answering the questions to the problems that people know they have. And until we get about solving the problem in this country where too few people have access to high quality healthcare that they don't have to pay at the point of care for, that they don't have to go into debt for, then it's going to erode trust in the science and the public health that we want to do every single day. And so those two things go together. I came to healthcare activism by way of public health. Until we solve the problem of the fact that we pay 20 cents on the dollar, a lot of which goes to the back pockets of corporate CEOs in this country, while too many people go without healthcare, I worry that that trust is going to continue to be eroded, and we're going to continue to get taken advantage of by demagogues like RFK Jr.
Medicare for All, central to your ideology. You wrote a book about it. There was a foreword written by Bernie Sanders, the Citizen's Guide. You can see it back there on your bookshelf. Can you expand a little bit more on, oh, there we go. Can you expand a little bit more on Medicare for All and like how, as a United States Senator, you would attempt to reintroduce that back into the zeitgeist, into the range of what is possible? Because, hopefully we elect a Democrat in 2028. But it seems as though the party broadly abandoned healthcare and acted like, hey, we solved it with the Affordable Care Act, and that's that. But obviously there are people who are still hurting and even turning to snake oil salesmen because there's a vacuum in terms of healthcare policy with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, Emma. First, I want to say I'd look forward to joining stalwarts like Senator Sanders, who've been fighting this fight for a very long time. And they've been keeping this flame alive. When it comes to Medicare for All, it should be simple in this country, the richest, most powerful country in the world, to guarantee access to high quality government health insurance for everybody. That's not to say that if your union, for example, negotiated a quality private plan that you liked, that you couldn't keep it. That is to say that if the factory shuts down, you shouldn't be without health care, that you can come back to a high quality government plan that supports you from cradle to grave. That should be something we can definitively afford if other countries that don't have nearly the resources that we do can do so. Now, the reason we don't do this thing, even though 60% of all healthcare offered in this country is public through Medicaid or Medicare, is because we've created a system where private health insurance corporations literally garnish our wages every 2 weeks to 4 weeks so that we have the right to pay a deductible, which again, they hide behind these big words, literally money you have to pay to get the healthcare that you thought you already paid for.
Right.
And they profit off that. Every single dollar that corporate CEOs of health insurance companies make, every dollar was a dollar that somebody spent to provide healthcare for themselves and their families. And they don't want to let go of that. So they build corporate PACs, things like 527s and super PACs to corrupt the public conversation. Now, Emma, you know this and you've studied it more even than I have. But anytime there's a public consensus on an issue, and then there's a political consensus that is way off from the public consensus, meaning members of both parties say a thing that's not what the public believes, the difference is usually somebody's money. And in this case, it's the money that corporations can pay to buy access to politicians to literally write their legislation to make sure that we don't get that thing that should be so easy to provide. And then they spend all kinds of money demagoguing us and fear-mongering over what we would lose rather than what we have to gain. We can have nice things. We have to believe it. And we have an opportunity through Medicare for All to finally make good on that guarantee for healthcare for everybody. We can do it. It's the only way that we do it, though, is that we step up to the way that corporations have been able to rig our system against us so they get to profiteer off of us. And we've got to focus on what we can have, not what they tell us we're going to lose. Because at the end of the thing that we have to gain is access to the rest of our lives. The ability to go see a doctor without being told what doctor you can see, or the at risking going into bankruptcy to do it.
Can you talk a little bit more about why a government system would be more efficient? I think that people get scared off by the idea that because of, frankly, things like austerity or other government programs that are needlessly complicated just to avoid doing something that is broad-based and taxes the rich, folks get scared off. But we know that cutting out the middleman of health insurers does provide more equitable outcomes. Talk to people about that a little bit.
Yeah. First, I just want to say, I don't know many seniors who graduated into Medicare, turned 65, got their Medicare, and didn't breathe a sigh of relief. Medicare operates at an overhead of about 3%, whereas private health insurance operates at an overhead of about 15%. Literally 15 cents on every dollar we spend on private health insurance goes to pay for some overhead. So much of it goes to pay the tens of millions of dollars that go to the salaries of corporate CEOs. We didn't pay that money so that they could take it. We paid it for our healthcare, which is exactly what Medicare does. Now, don't get me wrong. Corporations are trying to profiteer off Medicare through programs like Medicare Advantage. They're coming for that too. But traditional Medicare is just more efficient. And here's the thing. We rely on that program to provide healthcare for people who need the most healthcare. Traditionally, as you age, you end up needing more healthcare because it tends to be that you get sicker as you get older. So when you get older, you get the system that's way more efficient. But it's when you're younger and healthier, you have to pay a ton so that CEOs can make a lot more off of it. And the reason that Medicare can be so much more efficient, the reason Medicare for All could be so much more efficient is because, well, in a government program, you're not paying a corporate CEO, you're not paying for marketing costs, you're not paying for all of these other things that private companies have to pay for. The other part of it is this. There are about 9,000 healthcare providers in our country, and there are about 700 health insurance companies. You can imagine when they have to bill each other, there's a whole rigmarole that has to happen so that they can talk to each other. And that requires both sides to hire armies of billers on both sides. And those billers cost a ton of money. It's just the crosstalk between them. When you end up having not 700 health insurers, but one, now the billing becomes easy because everybody just bills the government system. And so you end up eliminating a lot of the churn, the cost that has to go into the system. So this could be more efficient. It would enable us to see any doctor we wanted. It would make us all equal healthcare consumers. It would make sure that we could have our healthcare covered without having to worry about a deductible or a copay or a premium. Again, all words that they hide behind so that you don't know all the different ways that they nickel and dime you. We could do so much better if we are willing to embrace what's possible and not fall prey to the cynicism that folks who exploit our pain are so interested in selling to us.
Absolutely. Let's just turn, before we have to let you go, to another topic, back to the race a bit. There's two other candidates who have joined in, or two other major candidates, Representative Haley Stevens, as well as a state senator, Mallory McMorrow. Let's play a little bit of this clip here. This is Haley Stevens being asked by a constituent about her getting support from AIPAC. And this isn't just standard support. She's receiving a lot, and also saying things like, she supports aid to Israel unconditionally, basically. She was asked about this publicly. Here's that clip.
It's your first fourth, and you're walking with the Congresswoman. Yes, oh my gosh, please.
Well, thank you so much for your community service.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I was wondering, with all the support of Republicans and people who are anti-choice and people who are working to disrupt our election systems that AIPAC is doing right now, I'm wondering why you're accepting their support. I'm a Jew, and my family lives here in this community, and I really think that those kinds of candidates are making the Jewish people less safe. I'm wondering why you're accepting their
Well, thank you so much for coming and bringing your kiddo. It's so nice to meet with you.
It's nice to meet you too, but I'm just wondering, I want to make life and this country a safe place for him to grow up in. I'm wondering why you would want to accept their endorsement and $800,000 in ads this year.
Yeah. Guys, I have received, how many endorsements have I received this election?
A lot.
I think I've got a lot of local labor endorsements.
You are a great representative, and we really appreciate your support. I'm just hoping.
Hi, you guys.
Oh my gosh, hi. This is not, look at the boat. Let's ride the boat.
Okay, so she walked away, literally walked away from that question. Obviously, Michigan has been a major flashpoint in the conversation about Israel's genocide in Gaza, and some of the support or lack thereof for Israel in the state that's been a bit of a dividing line, right? And of course, it came up in the presidential race. What's your stance and what's your message to voters who may hear statements like that and seeing her walking away from a constituent asking that question about how that fits into your Senate campaign?
Yeah, I tell you, that's hard to watch. I think there are two central questions here. The first is, what should we do with our tax dollars? And the second is, how do we want our democracy to work? When it comes to our tax dollars, I want anybody to think about their local public school and ask yourself whether or not it could benefit from a few $1,000,000 more of investment. And then ask yourself whether or not you think that the best use of our tax dollars is to be sent abroad to foreign militaries to allow them to bomb other kids' schools and other kids when we should be spending it right here on our own. And that really is the question. We just talked about healthcare for a while. And the big thing they want to tell you is that we can't afford it. Well, yeah, we can't afford it if we're sending tens of billions of dollars abroad to a foreign military. And I think that's a real problem. Then the question about how we transact our politics. We know that there's too much money in our politics. There's too much special interest money. And a lot of that money is spent across party lines. And so AIPAC has become just another vehicle by which Republicans can spend in Democratic primaries to pick what Democrats they want to run against. And I'm just saying that anybody running in a Democratic primary should not be accepting money from MAGA to decide what Democrats win or to beat up on other Democrats. And so I hope that everybody in this race will join me in saying that we are not going to accept the MAGA money to beat up on fellow Democrats, and that we believe that special interest money should not be used to decide who our candidates will be. And I'll tell you this, I'm proud that MAGA doesn't want to fight against me, and it tells you something about who they're worried about. And so, they don't want to face me in the general election. They know that if we're willing to have conversations about working people's issue, about guaranteeing people health care, about protecting our air and water, and doing so clearly, honestly, and with a concise and direct appeal to the pain that people are experiencing and how to solve it, that we win elections. And they don't want that. And so they're trying to muddy the message. And it's not surprising to me that they're reaching in. I just hope that fellow Democrats aren't going to accept that money to try and decide who the winner of a Democratic primary will be.
Abdul ElSayed, thank you so much for your time today. How can people support your campaign if they would like to?
I hope that folks will go to abdulforsenate.com. We need your help. If you're here in Michigan, please sign up to volunteer. Sign up to host me at a house party. I'd love to come to your space. And then if you can, from all over the country, even $5, $10, I don't take corporate PAC money. So I rely on good people like you. I'm not taking AIPAC money, I'll tell you that much. And they're going to be spending a whole lot of money to beat me because they're afraid of what I have to say about common sense foreign policy and about so many issues affecting Michiganders. So please, abdulforsenate.com. Emma, it was just a privilege to get to share space with you and share a conversation today.
It was great to talk to you again. Thanks so much, Abdul.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.